And welcome back. We move into our first conversation this morning with the new executive of the Public Service Union, where we'll be discussing quite a few topics for discussion, everything from the general elections this weekend to the continued strike action to what the new executive has in store for moving forward. We have with us this morning the president of the Public Service Union, Mr. Dean Flowers, the first vice president of the Public Service Union, Anissa Gonzalez, and the second vice president of the Public Service Union, Mr. Philip Tate. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Good morning, Belize.
So we want to move right into the discussion with what happened this weekend, which was the annual General Assembly, as well as the new elections being held, that is, and the results of the elections. So, Mr. Flowers, can you please share with us what the results were and how did the General Assembly go?
Okay. Well, over this past weekend, the 28th and 29th of May, we held the 99th Annual General Meeting of the Public Service Union. It was a very successful event. More than anything, of course, what was celebrated was the fact that we're 1 year away from our 100th anniversary, which we hope to celebrate in grand fashion. For this 99th year, which comes up on July the 15th, we certainly will be also engaging in a national discussion and ensuring that we have our union visible and at the forefront of all conversations come July. Over the weekend, we had Brother Mose Hyde, Evan Mose Hyde as our guest speaker. Mose provided us with a very motivating speech and encouraged the union, of course, to bring back that spirit of true unionism and to promote at all times promote camaraderie and a strong union spirit for us to be able to rebuild the union as we have in fact, and we must acknowledge that over time we have lost a little bit of that fire that used to burn in the union. The first day was primarily the business sessions where we heard from different branches, and of course we went over our financial statements and our different committee reports. On the second day, we held the elections. The post of president was uncontested, and so myself was elected president, but in an uncontested fashion. For the post of first vice president, which was contested by Sister Anissa Gonzalez and Brother Herman Pastor, Sister Gonzalez was successful. For the second vice president, Brother Philip Tate went up against Brother Beresford Codd. I think you know that name, Brighton. and Brother Tate was successful. The post of general secretary was uncontested, and Sister Tricia Paris was elected to that post. And for councillors elected to serve for the next 2 years were Sister Agnes Novello and Sister Amada Carrillo. Sister Agnes is, of course, from the Belize branch. Sister Amada is from the Corozal branch. And they beat out Brother Felipe Munoz and Brother Santiago Acosta. Munoz is from Orange Walk. Brother Acosta is from Sten Creek. Yeah. And we had one post for a trustee. And Brother Pablo Gonzalez of Corozal was successful in that post. So those were the individuals elected over this weekend. Okay. And other than Sister Gonzalez, everyone will be serving for 2 years. Sister Gonzalez will only be serving for 1 year. And that is because I was holding the post of first vice president, and I have served in that capacity for 1 year, and I vacated that post. So next year,
it's to complete your term.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me hear from Anissa and Philip about why you were motivated to run for the executive. Let's start with you, Anissa.
Thanks, Marlene. Well, as you know, we have been going through a rather, I don't want to be negative, but we have been negatively showcased as it's as seen on the media and even within. I felt it was time for us to move forward, and I was mandated by members to assist with that. We want for the public to recognize, that like Brother Dean says, this union has been around for 99 years. It's very obvious that it has made its impact over the many years where leaders have come forward to the table with government. I thought it was time for me to take up that mandate and help the union move forward in a better way.
All right, and for you, Philip?
Yes, good morning again, everybody.
Yes.
And thanks very much for the opportunity. I felt that it was an opportunity to serve and to be able to continue to contribute. I've been a long-standing member of the Public Service Union, and I feel that given the issues we're facing now, it's just part of the participation and engagement with our membership to ensure that we can truly make a difference in trying to make some of the adjustments that are needed in this country. And even though the Public Service Union is not the loyal opposition, it has a responsibility to our membership as well as to be able to ensure that we can contribute to the development of Belize.
Yes. Now, I want to dive into one of the issues that we don't discuss enough, and Dean, maybe you can talk us through it. How representative is the Public Service Union? What's your membership compared to the actual amount of public servants that we have, and what's been your rate of growth?
Okay. Very good question, Marlene. It's a conversation that whenever it comes up in the media or in the morning shows, there's always this misinformation. The discussion does not reflect the facts. I have tried my best over the last couple of months to explain clearly that where the public service is concerned, the public service is comprised of approximately 15,000 public offices. Of those 15,000 public offices, while the Public Service Union is the bargaining agent for all public offices, not all public offices are able to be a member of the Public Service Union. So immediately you have to start eliminating the security forces, which is responsible for approximately about 5,000, because we're looking about 2,000, over 2,000 for both police and BDF. Combined, that would be in excess of 4,000. You would have to also remove the Coast Guard offices. So they account for about 5,000 of that 15,000. We're now down to 10,000. The teachers represent approximately 3,500.
Government teachers.
So yes, well, no, all teachers.
Okay.
Because where the BNT is concerned, it doesn't matter which
Okay.
institution, whether you're government aided or fully government. Government funds 70% of most of these non-government institutions.
Okay.
And that's the reason when you hear about a conversation concerning a 70-30 and proposal 22, which has kept the joint union in a 13 years collective bargaining agreement that we're unable to sign off on, it's because of that. Because government teachers would, of course, collect their 100% pension, while if you're on a government or grant-aided school, you only get 70%, and the school is responsible for that additional 30%, and that is one of the kinks that has not been able to work out. So all teachers, and so the BNTU negotiates on behalf of all teachers. Okay. So you'd remove that 3.5, and then when we look at the real numbers, we're down to about 6,600, based on my numbers, 6,600 public offices that the Public Service Union will be able to readily represent in the event of anything. Of that, our membership hovers around 3,000 members. In terms of growth on our growth rate, it has not been as prolific as we would have liked to see. And this is something, and I'm very pleased that this is one of the pillars on which I campaigned upon. And this is one of the conversations that I've been having with the two vice presidents in terms of how do we make our union more attractive once again? How do we retain members? And more importantly, how do we attract new members? And it has to start, of course, again, with an educational campaign about unionism.
With about 50% representation, from your own experience, what is the hesitation that people have with joining the union or associating with the union?
They simply don't comprehend, or that they're not able to relate to the principle of unionism. You would hear questions such as, what has the union done for me? People don't appreciate the fact that the very fact that they have a safe work, the fact that they have a process by which they're hired and fired, the fact that we have a grievance mechanism in place in terms of how they're disciplined. People don't understand that these are all as a result of the existence of a union. The fact that they only work 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week. These are fights by the union. The fact that we're currently in negotiation with the government, and the government has not heavy-handedly, even though to a certain degree it has, acted unilaterally. The fact that established workers enjoy a different, and this is not a good thing, but they enjoy a different status than open vote workers who with a signature can be sent home after working 10 and 20 years in the service. These are things that the union fought for, and these are things that we continue to fight for. So again, it goes back to my earlier comment that people simply have not been in touch. We have not been engaged with our general membership, and our young workers are oblivious to why a union exists and why a union should exist and why they should join a union. And so Brother Tate, who is responsible for membership, has a human task ahead of him, and I want to reassure him that as the leader of this union, he will be afforded with all the necessary resources to ensure that we get back to basic, which is communicate, and effectively inform and educate our membership.
On that point, I want to move directly into what's happening within the union itself. On Saturday, there was the assembly, the annual general meeting, and not present was the former president to deliver the president's report, which is usually expected at the general meeting. How do you evaluate, as the new president, the accomplishments of the former president?
I believe that as a union, much was accomplished under the leadership of Brother Henry. I believe that Brother Henry enjoyed the support of a very young executive, and an executive that was always willing to work. It is unfortunate, of course, the manner in which he exited the presidency, but if I had to give him a score in terms of his accomplishment, I would probably say a 6 out of 10. But it wasn't it wasn't as beautiful in terms of all that we could have accomplished. Again, I think there are clear areas in which we could have improved, but I think it was a learning experience for all of us, because we're dealing with personalities here, and so we must understand that while we don't think alike, it doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong. We must learn to respect each other, and we must learn to coexist or perish. If we continue to preach division, we will perish together as fools. And so as I said, in any organization, these things are bound to happen. So I
you-
don't think that it would be worthy of our time and an injustice to your viewing audience for us to dwell on that negative part
Of
of
course.
on how he has exited the union.
And we have some critical issues to discuss as well, especially the industrial action. But I do want to give you the chance to respond to the public sentiment that Mr. Henry was being forced out of the position.
And these are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself: who is saying them? Where are they coming from? You know, there's always this quote that listen to what is being said and who is saying it, and you would then get your answer. For 2 years, Marlene, I can reassure you, and the general public is testament or can be the jury of this. And not once did these kind of conversations come up, whether in public or in private. We have a membership with whom we've engaged extensively over the last 4 months, and not one day, even when we had a membership of almost 500 people in one of those forums, not one day did these kind of comments came up. So now that we're at this juncture of in terms of the transition of leadership, you're hearing these kind of assertions, and I want to apologize for the dogs and the neighbors' dogs, I guess, and they have a feed day this morning.
That's the Belizean soundtrack early morning.
But yeah, I really don't know where they're coming from. I would really like to see, and of course I've listened to a couple of the interviews, but nothing that has been said has been able to clearly demonstrate where in fact there was a concerted effort to remove Brother Henry as from the leader. Unless, of course, he can bring those documentary evidence, then I will have to simply respectfully disagree, but respect his opinion.
Yeah, so I want to move into the relationship that the Public Service Union has with the teachers. The teachers and the Public Service Union has been walking step by step throughout this entire process, especially with the ongoing strike action. However, sources have suggested that there was a joint release that went out sometime last week, whereas the experts from the Public Service Union were not necessarily a part of the development or craft of that joint release. Has that caused irreparable damage between the teachers and the Public Service Union in your perspective as the new president? Or is that something that's reconcilable with moving forward with the relationship with the teachers?
Absolutely not. I can say with much pride that one of the first persons that contacted me was Sister Elena Smith of the BNTU to congratulate me and to invite me to a meeting. So again, utter nonsense if there is any semblance or suggestion that there may be some fracture there. I'm expecting to meet with her this week, and she told me, of course, that she'll be courteous enough to come to Belmopan. So I believe that says a lot, rather than me going to Belize City. Yeah. So we will discuss, of course, the response. In terms of input, the signature of the president of the Public Service Union of Belize was there. He's the legal signatory for the union, or was. And so we have to respect the fact that he was satisfied with the content of the response given. In terms of, I know for myself as first vice president, we did our consultation and we provided input. The letter might not be a reflection of what we all wanted to see, but nothing is written in stone. And so if anything was said or anything was omitted from that letter, it can be easily corrected. And I can say it to you as a matter of fact, where certain content of that letter, which relates to certain circulars that were released yesterday as it relates to the 5 hours work week, and when we cut down to the 10% less work hours, the short the reduction of the work week by 5 hours. I will be sending correspondence to the Ministry of Public Service this morning for some clarity on that, because that isn't as simple. That won't be simple to effect as they believe it is, and how those circulars purport that it should work. So definitely we want to engage the Ministry of Public Service, who sent out those circulars, effecting those, and we'll get the clarity. So all is not lost, and nothing is lost where the correspondent is concerned, and what may be in it or what may not be in it.
Let's move to some of the issues here. Of course, that the public has been monitoring the ongoing impasse that's spanned from, it's over 5 weeks now. The Public Service Union, as you said at your AGM, received a mandate from your membership who participated to say that you want to continue with industrial action. Of course, you know that the BNTU has made the decision to put their hold on strike, and they have returned to the classroom. Now, let's talk about moving forward with the industrial action. The 10% cut has gone to the House. It has, in fact, taken effect. The workers who go on strike will face a salary cut, or have faced a salary cut, I should say. The Protected Disclosure Bill was introduced. So the question today, of course, is, what are you still on strike for?
Okay. Where the 10% salary cut is concerned, that has still not been, while government, of course, has rammed that through the House and rammed that down our throats, we're not easily going to give up that conversation so easily. And so that remains a very much live issue, irregardless of the unattainable targets that the government has set before us in an effort to compensate or to offer some kind of compensation. Anything that is taken away from you, any property that is taken away from you, Marlene, by law, you must be compensated. And so that compensation, that while the cuts will be effected, we must address the issue of compensation, and that will forever be a burning issue, and that will forever be at the forefront of our fight for the next 5 years, if that's how long it takes. But we will not be bullied, and we will not be taken advantage in this kind of manner. We treat the government with respect, and we expect that equally they will return that respect to us. In terms of the Protected Disclosure Bill, yes, it has been introduced to the House. We are still in the process, and there was a deadline within which we should have responded, but that doesn't change the fact that there is still time for consultations. Consultations are still going through. It still has to go to the House committee to take into consideration all the input that will come from the general public, from the private sector, from the unions. And so all is not lost. And I want to reassure the general public that where the union's input in that bill is concerned, we're very much alive. We're very much working on that. And we will be ensuring that that bill is strengthened, because our preliminary views is that it simply does not capture all that we want to see in it, especially where enforcement and protection of whistleblowers are concerned. You cannot have whistleblowers registering who they are or registering to any specific entity. Whistleblowers is supposed to simply send in whatever information they have, and you carry out you assess that information, and you carry out the investigations to ensure to either dispel or ascertain whether the allegations are true. So, of course, Madonna, good governance is ongoing and continuous, and that is the clamor from our membership for us to do more where that is concerned. That is the cry from the general public for the unions to do more. And so from now until thy kingdom come, we will be in the face of this administration, in the face of any future administration, to ensure that Belize improves where corruption is concerned. We cannot continue along this path, and we must be held accountable, and we must hold those in leadership accountable.
Let's get Anissa and Philip in the conversation again to share their perspective as members who supported the strike and now as the executive who will carry it forward. Give us your perspective.
Well, Marlene, from the onset of the strike, we have been on the ground. And then, like what Brother Dean had said, you know, we need to effectively communicate to our members within first, and then move outward to the public of some of the things that are ongoing. There is a lot of misunderstanding of the nature of why we're still on strike, you know, and those are the areas that I would want to focus on, that we listen to who our audience is, who are our public officers, that we get the feedback from them, and then that we work on that. These are some of the areas that while we were on strike, you know, we did a lot of information days. Many times doing the information days and visiting the departments, many public officers weren't aware of some of the things that were on the table. This has to be improved on. So going forward, this is something that will be a continuous information that we would need to be putting out, you know, as we move forward with the government.
Philip, tell us about the sustainability, especially since you have the mandate of membership. Numbers matter. And the teachers were really, they have always been, anytime there's protest action, they're the ones that can and do bring out the numbers. How do you keep an effective strike going when you won't be able to have the type of presence that was there before?
Go ahead, Brother Philip. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sister Predo. Go ahead. I will follow through as soon as you finish.
I like when everybody wants answer.
This is one of the issue while we were on strike. Many public officers' sentiments were, we want to go on strike, but there was a blockage of what they could do in certain sectors, like the health sector. And they strategize themselves within. It might have been one or two, but that was how they strategized themselves. And this was what we broadcasted to when we were doing the information days. From within, strategize yourself on how you want to effectively show that you are on strike.
Part of the issue is that within the public service, there are some clear issues in terms of participation from membership. And I think it has to be addressed where members know their rights, because one of the issues is that a lot of young people within the public service don't know their rights in terms of the regulations that is governing all public officers. And the issue is that we have to be able to deal with the issue of membership. And Brother Dean also brought up the issue of education, because I think part of the issue within the public service is that people believe that if you are intimidated and because of some of the issues of the fear of participating, then the implication is dire for some members of the public service, and the participation isn't as robust as we would like it. But nonetheless, I think the new executive has seen fit and clearly identified the fact that we need to focus on our membership to get them to a point where they can understand the implication of what is taking place, how best can we address these issues in going forward, and to be able to ensure that you engage within the union. We can't do unionism by WhatsApp or by Facebook. We need to do unionism by engagement, where we meet our people, we engage them for them to understand their rights and responsibilities in order for us to truly understand the issues and the impact of what's coming and what is already here.
I want to follow up and get the feedback from you, President Dean, about how is it or your vision of improving or communicating to public servants the importance of being more efficient in delivering services. It's something that has been called upon by the general public, and it's something that's been called upon by also members who are a part of the Public Service Union. What is your take on that?
Bradine, I think you're muted.
It goes back to ensuring that when that seed is planted within the public service, Brother Cad, that it is provided and planted in the right environment. The politicization of the public service must stop. It needs to stop. What the injustice or the poor service that the general public is receiving is a direct result of the infiltration of politics in the public service. If the public service was run by the professionals within the Ministry of Public Service and not by the politicians, we would have had quality public servants within the public service. There is absolutely no induction training, and there is absolutely no education about what is expected of you. There is no real time taken to go over the public service regulations with these new hirees. It's a minister telling you, you have all the power in the world, and you go there and you tell them, I send you there. And I make none of them tell you nothing. And then that individual lacks the educational level, lacks the training, lacks the respect for others. And then we expect them to deliver quality service. Look at the amount of open vote workers that politicians have flooded the system with. Thousands. So there's this argument that they may very well outnumber the amount of established workers. That's an exercise, again, we have to look at, because we also have to address that issue, because it's an injustice for open vote workers to be subjected to this kind of unstable political environment. But how do we improve that, Brother Cad? What we intend to do is that we have engaged the Ministry of Public Service to say, look, we want to be a part of your training sessions so that we can deliver not only a union message, but also that we can deliver a public service message in terms of, we're not here to defend poor performance. We're not here to defend bad behavior. We're here to ensure that you provide quality service and that you conduct yourself in accordance with the Public Service Union regulation. We've also reasoned with the previous CEO, who has now transitioned, but also with the Minister of Public Service, that there is an urgent need for the Ministry of Public Service to start setting up induction training, perhaps quarterly, if not at least annually, where you bring in all of these new public servants, including CEOs, because I can tell you, some of those CEOs are loose cannons. And I'm not the most popular person in the public service and in their eyes, but the truth must be told. They're loose cannon and they're clueless how the public service is run, right? And sometimes it's not even the officers at the bottom that causes these bottlenecks and these push-ups. It's the CEOs, because they're brought in from, in some cases, God knows where. And then we put them in an environment which is supposed to be run in a certain way, but really and truly they come there and they want to run things from a political standpoint, from a power standpoint. So it is not only our responsibility as a union, but it is the government responsibility to show political will, get rid of CEOs and bring back the permanent secretaries so that the public service can be run by established, trained, and qualified public officers. It is also the responsibility of the wider public to demand this, to demand better. Stop accepting political cronies and flunkies to be flooded into the system, and more importantly, at the highest level. So those are some of the areas, of course, that we will continue to speak out against, and that we will continue to offer solutions, because it's easy to criticize. But I want to say that for every criticism that we offer, we will be offering solutions as well.
But it is also, you know, when you look at it, and I hear your points about open vote workers and appointed persons getting jobs within the public service. But it doesn't take away from the fact that one of the constant criticisms, and I'm not saying all because we always use a blanket statement, but every single person has identified weaknesses within the public service system. We, the public, who have to interact with the system, identify it. And so if you know this is a constant weakness that is criticized, how do you strengthen your own public image with the members that you do have engaged?
You're muted, Brother Dean.
Brother Dean, you're muted.
Yeah. Brother Tate, I will not endeavor to remember all the public sector reforms paper that has been put out there, but I'm pleased to know that I have a second vice president who has institutional memory and all of those papers. And so, Marlene, one of the first thing as the executive responsible for membership, we're also going to task Brother Tate to look at all those studies, all those papers that were put together, and I'll allow Brother Tate perhaps to comment on some of those studies and some of those literature that we can, as a union, incorporate in informing, educating, and improving the mindset and how our members give service to the general public. So very, very valid point, Marlene.
So let's, as we quickly run out of time, let's talk about what lies ahead. There was that letter that was sent out last week, May 25th, from the joint unions. You know, it's very important to be clear. The BNTU's strike is on hold as they pursue the legal options that they have. The PSU is proceeding with industrial action and maintaining your trade dispute. Has there been any openness or consideration from the government side for you to sit down and perhaps be able to hammer out an end to this strike?
We have not heard back from the government. We're hoping that we will. We've always said that we are a lifetime partner with the government, and there's no separating public offices from the government or the public service union from the government. And whether or not another union comes up, unions will always be here and must work with the government. We're hoping that perhaps in the conversation yesterday in cabinet, perhaps there was some discussion surrounding how do the government and the joint unions reconvene around the negotiation table with a view to end the impasse. And again, I want to make it clear, as I do in every forum, that industrial dispute, that impasse that exists, will not go away. It will not vanish. It will not evaporate into thin air. It must be resolved, and it is up for the government to do the right thing, show good leadership, show true leadership, and resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to follow up with a question pertaining to the collective bargaining agreement from 2008. It is yet to be closed. What is your perspective and position on the collective bargaining agreement and closing that as the new president of the PSU?
Well, I'm pleased to report that as part of the consultations with the government, there was a commitment by the government to ensure that we close that CBA this year. And so, as I stated earlier, there is an area of contention for the teachers. Where the public service union is concerned, we have acceded to what has been negotiated over the last 13 years, and we believe that it is time to move on. If there is something that we did not get in that negotiations, nothing stops us from bringing it back in a new CBA. And so we believe that we must move on. We are prepared to move on. However, we understand the spirit of unionism and this spirit of sisterhood that we have with the BNTU, and hence the reason why we're exercising support to them where this 70-30 proposal 22 is concerned.
However, whether or not the teachers agree to the collective bargaining agreement, the PSU will continue on without the teachers. Is that correct?
That would have to be a clear mandate from membership or to my leadership. I can tell you that in the past, that has been the position of membership. But again, we will have to engage with the teachers. We will have to allow good reason to prevail, and we will have to hear from them. And then I report back to my members and say, look, the Minister of Public Service and the government of Belize has committed to bring this CBA to a close this year. And I think they said within 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. And we want that. And so even if it is that we were to move ahead without the teachers, it does not, of course, fracture any relationship with the teachers. It's simply to say that, okay, where the CBA is concerned, we have different views, and we take our views, but with respect.
Considering that there are bills on the table to amend the Public Service Commission as well as the good governance bills, how do you envision the development of the Social Partnership Committee the unions agreed to as well as the government?
Brother Tate, you want to weigh in there in terms of the 10th Amendment and as well as, brother, I don't know if the two are interrelated or Brighton in terms of the Social Partnership Committee.
Well, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, the Public Service Union currently is providing its position and in consultation with other social partners as it relates to strengthening and also trying to ensure that the depoliticization of these entities, the Elections and Boundaries, Public Service Commission, and the other two entities that are involved, we are preparing and presenting our proposal to the House Committee shortly for that position to be taken, and then the conversation begins with our social partners as well to see how best we could get the best fit for the changes that government is trying to implement, because we feel that the politicization is still within the current structure. And I think part of the conversation and negotiation means, because we're not consulting anymore, this is about negotiating to be able to get the best option, to be able to ensure that these entities can effectively serve the purpose that they were created for, to be able to ensure that we can ensure that the mantra of the good governance issues we have put on the table can be enhanced and ensured that we do things differently. This country has to do things differently in going forward. I'll leave it there for now.
All right, and we'll leave it there for now too, because we are out of time. This was, of course, just an introductory interview to the new executive and to get an update as to how you intend to proceed with the industrial action as we move forward. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and continue to stay safe.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. All of us. Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to be talking about COVID-19 and some ongoing training taking place with other countries. So please stay tuned.